Hello, Sepul Nation. Are you ready for another very special SepulQuarta? Today, SepulQuarta number 22, and we decided to do like an ecological addiction. Today, we're gonna have this special Q&A with Carolina Castro representing Sea Shepherd and Mitch Anderson representing Amazon Frontlines. And you can collaborate with both organizations by donating the QR code that I'm gonna put in the screen in a couple of minutes. After the Q&A, we're gonna have Andreas Kisser chatting with the Brazilian journalist André Trigueiro. He's an expert about the environment, and after that, we're gonna have the official release, the world premiere for the music video for the song Guardians of Earth that was directed by Raul Machado, and with a lot of amazing images provided by Amazon Frontlines. So do not miss that. And this music video today is gonna be here available only for 15 minutes, so you cannot miss that. And finally, after the world premiere for the music video, we're gonna have the storyteller with Otávio Juliano, who is the director of Sepultura's documentary, the Sepultura Endurance. And he's gonna talk about another film that he produced called The Music Tree. And it's another amazing storyteller that we have here. So if you wanna send your questions, you can use the comment box here on YouTube or Facebook. And if you wanna have your comments highlighted here, you can use Super Chat, but to make it clear, the donations only by the QR code, right? So I'm gonna leave a message for our fans who speak Portuguese here. Boa tarde, Sepul Nation. Bem-vindos a mais uma SepulQuarta, muito especial, SepulQuarta número 22. E a gente vai começar aqui com o Q&A com a Carolina Castro, que representa a Sea Shepherd. Vocês vão conhecer um pouquinho mais daqui a pouco. E agora o Q&A vai ser em inglês, né? E o Mitch Anderson, que vai representar a Amazon Frontlines. E vocês podem colaborar com as duas instituições diretamente pelo QR Code que eu vou colocar daqui a pouquinho. Na sequência, a gente vai ter um outro bate-papo do Andreas em português, né? Conversando com o jornalista André Trigueiro, que é especialista em questões aí do meio ambiente. E, na sequência, a gente tem a estreia mundial, né, do videoclipe da Guardians of Earth, e foi dirigido pelo Raul Machado, que já trabalhou com Sepultura no primeiro videoclipe que o Derrick fez, né, que é da música Choke, e esse videoclipe tem imagens espetaculares que foram cedidas aí pela Amazon Frontlines, e ele vai ficar disponível hoje só por 15 minutos, então não percam, ok? E, por fim, a gente vai ter o storyteller com o Otávio Juliano, que é o diretor do documentário do Sepultura, o Sepultura Endurance, e ele vai comentar a respeito de outro documentário que ele produziu, que é A Árvore da Música, que é sobre o pau-brasil. E também, no fim, vai ter uma surpresa para vocês. Então é isso, enviem suas perguntas, as doações é só pelo QR Code, e se vocês quiserem ter os comentários destacados, vocês podem usar o Superchat, mas as doações apenas pelo QR Code. Então, vamos começar aqui, vou trazer os nossos convidados.
Hey, can you hear me? Yes. Carolina.
Hey, how's
Can you
it
hear
going?
me? Good. How are you?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. We're here again with another edition of SepulQuarta. And I'm here with a very special guest, Carolina Castro from Sea Shepherd. Can you introduce yourself and the position that you have at Sea Shepherd?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for having me here representing Sea Shepherd. I can speak from all of us at Sea Shepherd. We're big fans of Sepultura, and for me, especially being Brazilian, I'm a bigger fan. So it's a great pleasure to be here. So my name is Carolina Castro, and I am a longtime Sea Shepherd crew member. I crewed on many different campaigns all over the world, and currently I am in my home country of Brazil, and I'm the president of Sea Shepherd here.
Excellent, excellent. And can you explain to people who might not know what Sea Shepherd is? Like, what is it about? What is the organization doing? Just give a little idea so people can understand.
Yeah, so we are an ocean conservation organization, and we were founded back in 1977 by Captain Paul Watson. So many of you may know us from the TV show Whale Wars, where we were protecting whales in Antarctica against poaching. But that's not the only thing that we do. We actually work in many different areas of the world to protect not only whales, but also many other marine animals such as sharks, turtles, and even some fish and other cetaceans. So one of the biggest problems in the world is bycatch, and a lot of that happens due to IUU fishing. So IUU fishing is illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. So Sea Shepherd has been tackling this head on. And the way we do that is by working in partnerships with governments to help them patrol and monitor their waters. Sometimes we even assist with arrests of illegal fishing vessels, and as well as with removing illegal fishing gear. So most notably, we've been doing this work in many countries of Africa where we have arrested many vessels fishing illegally there, and as well as in Mexico also. We have a very well-known campaign to protect the most endangered marine mammal in the world, which is the vaquita porpoise. There we remove illegal fishing gear together with the government, and that way we've been protecting this animal from extinction. So if Sea Shepherd was not there, this animal would very likely be extinct already. So it's the most endangered marine mammal in the world. So by doing this, by focusing on this issue of IUU fishing, we have been able to protect a lot more animals than before. So, for example, in Antarctica, we were protecting, about 800 whales a year, which was very important work. And we were there for 10 years, and we managed to end whaling in all of the southern hemisphere. So there's no more whaling in the southern hemisphere in the world. But now, by tackling IUU fishing, to have an idea of how massive this problem is estimated that up to 300,000 cetaceans fall victim to bycatch yearly. So by working with these governments, by preventing this bycatch to happen, obviously we're not preventing all of the bycatch in the world, but we're tackling this problem to prevent some of it. We are protecting a lot more cetaceans.
Right. And what attracted you to Sea Shepherd? Like, what drew you in to want to be a part of it? Like,
yeah. So I joined a long time ago, actually. So I joined pretty young. I was about 22 years old, and that was back in 2001.
oh,
and
I'm
I
sorry.
was really looking.
One thing, I think Bruno, did you want to say something? Or
No, just see the message. Like sometimes it's cutting a little bit the audio, Carolina. Maybe like when you talk a little bit slowly,
Okay.
it gets better.
Sorry. Okay. Problem. So I started back in 2001, and I was really looking into a way to make a difference in the world, because back then I was seeing, that the path that we were going as humans was not, a sustainable path. And I think that is very obvious today, 20 years later, that is very obvious that was right. So I joined as a volunteer on one of the ships. I was very interested in doing something for the planet. And that's where when I joined, Sea Shepherd was very small back then. We were like a very small grassroots organization. We had one ship, but it was really great that I joined then, because Paul Watson was quite a bit younger back then, and he was active on the ship as the captain of the ship, and I got to learn a lot from him at that time.
That's amazing. I know that with my own show, Highway to Health, the program that I'm working on, and with Tanya O'Callahan as the co-host, we were able to film on 2 of the boats in Mexico, and you were just there before we were working on the boats. And it really was an eye-opening experience to me to see firsthand what's going on day to day. And, you know, and actually that was the mission for saving of Akita. And it was very real, just entering the town and feeling that weight of the town's people really not happy with you there. Where everyone was telling me you can't wear any Sea Shepherd stuff. It's better that you don't. We were being followed by people who had radios, and it was very unnerving situation. Can you tell us like what's going on there with that mission? And because I had a little bit of an understanding, a better understanding from being there, but it was really intense, you know, with the armed guard on the boat, you know, all the time. And I just thought it was really relevant to such a tremendous problem.
Right. So this campaign is called Operation Milagro. For anyone who's interested, you can look it up, Operation Milagro at seashepherd.org. So is the campaign exactly the campaign to protect the most endangered marine mammal in the world, which is the vaquita porpoise. So this is a perfect example of what I was saying about illegal fishing and bycatch.
Right.
So this animal is actually dying because it falls victim to this net that is set to catch this other species, which is the totoaba fish, which is a fish that is poached only for its swim bladder. So in a very similar fashion of shark finning, which I assume a lot of people must have heard, where they catch the shark, only cut the fins to make a soup,
throw the fish back, yeah,
and then throw the animal in the water. This is a very similar thing. Only the swim bladder of the fish is used, also for some unproven medicinal purposes, but it feeds like a huge animal trafficking scheme, legal animal traffic scheme, which is a big deal for conservation because we have a lot of laws for drugs and for protection to crossing borders and things like that, but it doesn't work the same way for animal trafficking. So there's a lot of animal trafficking happening in the world, which causes a lot of problems. So this fish is about the same size as this porpoise. So what happens is the gill nets that are set for the fish also catch the porpoise, and the population of these porpoises have been declining steadily for the past 30 years. And Sea Shepherd got involved about 5 years ago, and we saw that the fishing is rampant.
Right.
So there's not like in a lot of places there is a sanctuary for the vaquitas there. There is a marine protected area, and that's the problem with fishing in the world, because these areas exist.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, that's I think a lot of people have that would like to argue, like, why are they stopping fishing in these communities where that's been the lifeblood for them? You know, that's how they make money. It's something that's been happening in these places for a long time, but it's the illegal fishing that people understand that you're trying to prevent, right?
Exactly. And so there, like in many places of the world, there is the marine sanctuary, but there is a lack of enforcement. That's the big problem. And that's why IUU fishing, which is illegal, unreported, and unregulated. Because sometimes the fishing vessel is regulated for something, but they're fishing something else. So it falls under the illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. So there is this area protected, but the enforcement is lacking. So that's where we come in to help monitor the area and remove all this illegal fishing gear. And again, this case specifically, they are fishing for this fish. The totoaba is also endangered. So we are going after this nets of the totoaba fish, which is completely illegal to fish it. It's an endangered fish. The trade is being done is not for food or anything like that, for subsistence or even to feed families or something like that. It's been taken over by cartels, basically. So it's more profitable than cocaine.
Right.
To sell this totoaba bladder. So that's not, we're not like what messes with the fishermen there, the legal fishermen, and it's true, there is a socio-economical problem there, is the illegal fishing also. So the poachers is a problem for everybody. It's a problem for conservation, and it is a problem for the families that depend on certain fisheries there to survive, such as shrimp and other fisheries that they have there, that they're trying to turn them into sustainable practices, but the illegal fishing is in the middle of them. So it's a massive problem. And there is a pretty heartbreaking situation, and I'm sure you experienced that, Derrick. It would be interesting to hear that from you, like because it's very heartbreaking for the volunteers that we have there, because you go there and it's an extremely beautiful area of the world. Is the Sea of Cortez in Baja California? Is Cortez called Cortez? No, I'm sorry. Jacques Cousteau called that the aquarium of the world because there was so many species there. Like, it's such an abundance of life. And for you to see like that area get devastated, it's not only the vaquitas that you can find on the net, there's a hammerhead sharks and many other species. Is a pretty difficult job, And that's a thing that Sea Shepherd is known for as well. We fill the void of like the Frontlines in conservation organizations. There's space for all kinds of conservation in the world, and many different organizations do different parts like lobbying, or policy making and things like that. And Sea Shepherd is known for Frontlines. That's what we really do, is direct action.
Right, and then that direct action is so impressive. I mean, I was seeing before that it seemed like there was much more, like it was kind of dangerous to go into certain areas. But the technique that you're using, it looked like you had really amazing gear, sonar, to see where these illegal fishing nets are being put, and the strategy of getting those nets after they're placed and removing them was phenomenal. So you don't have that confrontation needed, and
that took years to develop.
Right, and I think it's great that you have the government cooperating, and then I heard there were certain townspeople that were for you, trying to work with the fishermen to really come up with a solution for everyone, because a lot of times people think that, these extreme, groups are going in and they're trying to kill an industry that's creating money for people. And it's definitely not the case. It's something that I grew to understand, that it's important to work with the community and work with the local authorities to get things done properly, in a way where there's a balance. And that's something that I really love about Sea Shepherd, is the fact that they're really open to work with so many people who are living there, and it was great seeing a lot of people involved, volunteers who were Mexican, who were on the boat, who were really care about their country. So it wasn't just a bunch, of like foreigners coming in and trying to, make things good. It was actual people from there. And the dedication, I think a lot of people don't understand that it's a 24-hour job and you're not getting paid. You're completely giving up your lives, right? Like, to do this, to volunteer for Sea Shepherd.
Yeah, most of the people that work on Sea Shepherd are volunteers. So I would say more than 80%. That's another differential of Sea Shepherd. Of course, we do have some positions, like for you to be able to have continuity on the campaigns and strategies, and some positions on the ship, even like a chief engineer, is hard to find, like a good one that is volunteer.
And I met one that was there that was so impressive, like his story, and he was Mexican. His brother was studying as well to be a captain engineer on the ship. Yeah. I think we had some questions that people might have for you. Robin, does Carolina think the effect of COVID on humans will affect our impact on the oceans? Carolina?
Yeah, I think we can see that it's already affecting, because of masks and more products, gloves, and many things like that. And you see some, some businesses that, work with water, trying to return to operations, and they're trying to sterilize and, close things. Like, let's say, for example, dive people, they're covering with plastics, like the dive equipments and things like that. And obviously we're wearing masks. People are wearing discardable masks and gloves and things like that. So I think that's a big impact already.
What do you think people can do to help, the situation, help in preserving the oceans and the wildlife? What do each person, and an everyday person, like somebody who lives inland, or somebody, how can they help?
Yeah, I think it is important that we talk about that, because sometimes people think like, oh, the only way I can really make a difference is if I get out there on a boat in Antarctica or in the middle of nowhere and like I'm helping fight, but everybody can have a massive impact from home. So, I think that we talk a lot about nowadays is the plastics in the oceans, right?
Mhm.
And so certainly as consumption has a big effect on that. And there is a point that not a lot of people talk about, but us as Sea Shepherd, we're a bit different. So we really like to bring, to drive that home, is that even when we're talking about plastic in the oceans, and that's all based by, by consumer, like you make those choices if you're gonna get things that have plastic, and how you're gonna discard that, right? How you're gonna discard that's gonna make a difference, even if you're not in the coast. Because if you're in the mainland and you put something in the river, or if you're using products that, microplastics go in the water, that's a big deal too. But you have to remember something, consumption. There's something we consume 3 times a day minimum, most people, which is food. So did you know that about half of the plastics in the ocean derive from fishing gear? So fishing gear that either has been discarded or lost from fishing vessels, they are half of the problem of the plastics in the oceans. So when you choose what you eat, if if it's radical for you to make a complete change in your food habits, you can just think about, making smarter choices more often, and that has a huge impact in the ocean. So now you think about this problem and you think, okay, half of the plastic in the world is because of fishing, and also bycatch is a massive problem in the oceans as well, and for the extinction of marine species. So now we're talking about fishing being a big problem in any way you look at it. So really, what you consume makes a big difference. And that is not just the straw or the plastic cup, it's also your food, which you consume every day.
That's a very, very good point. And right now we have joining with us from Amazon Frontlines, Mitch Anderson. And Mitch, can you give an introduction to yourself and what you do as far as your position in Amazon Frontlines?
Yeah, of course. First off, sorry for being a little late, Derrick. It's wonderful to meet you, and Carolina, really great to listen to the last bit that you were saying. My name is Mitch Anderson. I'm the founder and executive director of Amazon Frontlines. I'm calling in right now from Ecuador's southern Amazon. And, our organization works with indigenous communities, indigenous peoples to protect their lands, their cultures, their way of life, and our planet's climate. And, I'm really happy to be on the show. I'm really excited to be collaborating with your team, Derrick. It's an amazing music video. And, share, about Amazon Frontlines work, the experience of indigenous peoples who are facing, a bewildering array of threats, from oil to mining to poaching to logging to the fires that we're seeing that are raging across Brazil right now. And yeah, just to share a perspective, I've been living down here for about 10 years and working in the Amazon for the last 15. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for being on, both of you. I think it's vitally important for people to hear directly. People are working every day, to really make a better world for everyone and for the animals and the planet. And just to have that understanding, that connection is really important. And I wanted to talk a lot with you, Mitch, also about climate change. I know in the US, a lot of people are under the influence that it doesn't exist. And they're trying to find some other explanation for what's happening. So I don't know if you can explain how that impact? You know, what's going on? Are there really burning the Amazon? A lot of people have this idea that this is something naturally that's always happening with fires raging. Can you explain what's really going on as far as, is it a combination or is it man-made?
Yeah, there's a lot of people out in the world right now that are burying their heads in the sand and spewing a lot of lies about what's happening in the world, what's happening in the Amazon, in order to further their own agenda and their own interests, you know, as I know you know. And I think what's happening in the Amazon is really, it's the intersection of everything from climate change to species extinction to biodiversity loss to racism to this global pandemic that we're facing, to a loss of cultures, in human and indigenous cultures around the world. And you know what we're seeing, for instance, right now in Brazil, and the fires in Brazil is, you know, this is unprecedented amount of fires happening in the month of September. There's been a huge drought. We're seeing basically that industry, land grabbers, wildcat ranchers, basically being prodded on by you know, the Trump of South America, Bolsonaro, to burn down the forest, and then to clear the forest and then burn it in order for cattle and for soy plantations. And you know what we know, and what the scientists are telling us, and what indigenous peoples have been telling the world for hundreds of years, is that we need to respect Mother Earth. Right. The Amazon rainforest is an immense and life-sustaining ecosystem. And as humans and industry invades further and further into indigenous territories, degrades and destroys the forests, we're destroying that life-sustaining system. So what we're seeing is the Amazon produces its own rain. That's why it's called a rainforest. As you cut down the forest, what you're going to see is less and less rain each year. And when you see less and less rain, you're going to see more droughts, and you're going to see drier forests. And as capitalism and consumer society continues to expand and to grow and continues to lose connection with the land and widespread spiritual poverty around the world, what you have is agricultural practices, food production practices that depend on destroying more and more of these primary rainforests, which are some of the most biodiverse places in the world. And as more and more rainforest is destroyed, that vicious cycle continues. We're seeing the same thing here in the upper Amazon, where I'm based in Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia, not so much with the fires, but with rampant oil extraction, poaching of wildlife, illegal logging and mining. And what indigenous peoples are saying is, we need to be respected, you know, by the outsiders. And our connection with this land, we've built over thousands of years. And this connection with the forest that we have is what allows us to protect it, you know. But we're up against some of the most mighty interests in the world, with the deepest pockets, with the levers and control over, you know, democracies across South America. And we need allies. We need people like you, Derrick, like your band, people around the world that are watching, to not only watch and see as the greatest rainforest on earth is destroyed, but to engage in radical solidarity and support indigenous leadership and indigenous organization with resources, with attention, and with technologies. And that's what Amazon Frontlines is doing. We're partnering with indigenous communities, living with communities here in Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru, partnering with the indigenous organizations, and we work on advancing rights. We have a strong legal team that works to advance precedent and support indigenous nations in resisting extraction. We work to support indigenous youth and indigenous elders to monitor their territory, map their territory, use new technology so they can show the world that this is our territory. It's not just this vast sea of green that you can exploit, you know, government or oil company. It's our pharmacy, it's our temple, it's our marketplace, it's what gives us shelter. And we work with youth on storytelling. We work with women to build economic alternatives and on traditional healing systems. And we work to support indigenous communities on building autonomy and sustainability in their communities in the 21st century around clean water, solar energy, food sovereignty. And we need more and more people around the world to support the work of organizations like ours and indigenous peoples.
Because I asked earlier, Carolina, about what a person can do. For example, me in Los Angeles, or somebody in another place that's far away from the Amazon, because a lot of times people don't feel they can have an impact on what's happening there, being so far away, and they feel that disconnect. So what can people do to help in providing some type of change that's happening there?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing, and really thankful to you, Derrick, and to your team, because I think the first thing is to wake up, and it's a gut check, a worldwide gut check. Where am I on the planet right now, and how am I connected to the rest of the world, to the rest of the planet, to all living things? And in California right now, I imagine if you look outside, it's probably smoky right now.
Yeah, it was for the past week or so.
Yeah, and there are scientific studies that show that the Amazon drives weather patterns around the world, and destruction of the Amazon can lead to a decrease in rainfall in the Pacific Northwest, for instance. And so, in intense connections like that, where people in California can say, okay, we're going through the worst droughts that we've seen, the worst fire seasons that we've seen. We have, fascist, government bordering on fascism at this point that's denying climate change, denying the climate crisis. And we have indigenous peoples around the world, in California, in the US, in Canada, in the Amazon, and around the world, saying that, look, we've been saying this for hundreds, thousands of years, that you can't poison your own fishing holes. You can't poison your own rivers. You can't destroy your own home and expect that things are going to maintain equilibrium. And in terms of what people can do, I think that's one of the greatest questions that organizations like the Sea Shepherd, like Amazon Frontlines have, is like, how can we effectively support engagement and all these people that are waking up in the world that want to contribute, that want to be allies to social movements, environmental movements, indigenous movements around the world, beyond just a click, beyond just following us on Instagram or following us on Facebook. And right now, what we're saying is Amazon Frontline's fundamental role is to get resources onto the front lines and support indigenous communities and indigenous leaders, so that they can have the resources and the capacity and the networks that they need to determine their own destiny, to confront all of these threats that they face and build up their own autonomy on education, on healthcare, on environmental conservation, on sustainability. And so first thing that's needed right now really is resources, so that we can go up against some of the mightiest interests that the planet has seen. We also have, there's also, digital actions, are very important and very necessary, especially in this time of pandemic. And we've seen that in the South American countries as well, international outcry and international spotlighting of bad practices, human rights violations, does work. It does support. It does make sure that the judicial system, the politicians, the companies know that the world is watching. And so also sharing these stories, sharing about our work is also fundamental.
And I think making those companies transparent to what they're doing and confronting them and having people not support those companies is actually definitely can have a massive impact. I know I'm very concerned about what I'm buying and where I'm putting money. So I think this is something that a lot of people can really apply in their day-to-day lives, to really make a change. I think we had a few questions from people out there. I mean, my connection, here we are, Sabotage. Sechi. Yeah. What's up, my friend? I know who this is. Saudi Amigos is Ecuador. Mitch, I'm following your actions on Amazon Frontlines here. How has the quarantine affected the communities and how we can help?
Yeah.
I was going to ask that about how has COVID affected the tribes, the indigenous people? Has it had an impact?
Yeah. Well, Sabotaje, thanks for the question. Definitely. Indigenous folks here in the Amazon, have very recent memories of sickness and disease, from first contact, so have, in just several generations, from the 1950s and the 1900s with the rubber boom, have gone through polio, measles, yellow fever, common cold, flu, diseases that decimated their people. And so, first and foremost, the arrival of this pandemic, I've been living down here and remember speaking with indigenous folks about, look, there's this sickness in China and it's spreading around the world. And, the first thing that I noticed was the sense of, the psychological trauma of having dealt with and lived through and seen your elders being buried because a foreign sickness had invaded the territory. And secondly, when the pandemic hit here in Ecuador, it hit with a vengeance in Guayaquil. There was images of bodies on the streets because the medical system here in Ecuador had effectively collapsed. And so the first thing is that indigenous communities began self-isolating and restricting access into their territories. They began blockading roads, not allowing any river travel into their communities. But unfortunately, the Ecuadorian government and the governments of the entire region didn't pay heed to the indigenous people's demand, where they demanded a moratorium on all extraction, an immediate suspension on oil, on logging, on mining, calling on the ministries of environment and the regulatory agencies to stop in the tracks any type of extraction, because that could transmit more and more disease. And invariably, the disease entered into all of the communities out here that we've been working with. We organized some major fundraisers to support indigenous leadership in order to respond to this crisis, support on medical brigades, testing, humanitarian efforts, food, supplies, and information, so that the communities that are remote would be able to know what's going on and what's happening. And we worked on installation of remote communications infrastructure. And there's still need, Sabotaje, for funding in order to continue to support communities that are still going through the wave of the sickness. One of the great and powerful things that I would like to mention is that indigenous people's knowledge of the forest and the knowledge of plant medicine has been really, truly powerful and inspiring, and sort of a testament to what resilience can mean today. So indigenous peoples went deeper into the forest, and even though the virus entered into their lands, they were able to, amongst each other, share different plant remedies, roots, resins, barks, vines, flowers, and heal themselves. And so what we've seen is, at least here in Ecuador, an amazing sort of transformation and an effort on behalf of indigenous peoples, indigenous women, to heal their people. And that's been extremely powerful. And right now, with the pandemic, what we're going to see is governments wanting to double down on extractive industry to stimulate the economy. And so the next wave of mining and oil and a push on all extraction is coming up right now. Right. And so we're preparing to support the indigenous movement and fortify union between the indigenous nations to resist this next wave of extraction, which is invariably coming down the metaphorical pipeline.
I see. I wanted to talk a little bit about the video that we collaborated with you. I have to say that the song that we wrote, Guardians of Earth, was definitely inspired by Amazon Frontlines. I have been following the page on Instagram, and it was really inspirational from the first time actually hearing the song that Andreas and Eloy, I got a demo for them while I was in LA, and it just kind of really connected the visuals and everything I've been reading on Amazon Frontlines, and it was really inspirational. And so the lyrics were really written about the indigenous people, the guardians of Earth, really protecting the rainforest, and the information that you were talking about that exists within the plants, and for medicine and for the survival of this planet. So I'm just really happy that it all came together, and actually being able to use those images with the music, I think it will have a massive impact. And also I have to say, for Sea Shepherd, being able to go on the ships, to go on a mission, to see the work that you're doing and document that for people around the world to really check out was an incredible experience that I think a lot of people can gain some insight of what can be done and what's happening and how they can get involved. I think I saw one question that was asking, are you guys accepting volunteers? How does that work? I can start with Carolina. How, if you want to volunteer and be a part of Sea Shepherd? Okay, here we go. Dimitri, thanks for the question. Carolina, is it still possible to join a crew on one of the Sea Shepherd ships as a volunteer? I know there's a long waiting list.
Yeah, it is possible. So anybody can apply. You can go to the website seashepherd.org, and you have the information on how to apply there. Obviously, nowadays with the coronavirus restrictions, we are not, some of our ships are not in the water at the moment. So there might be more waiting related to that. But obviously, if you are very skilled in ships, it's easier for you to get on. But somebody that has no skill can also apply, and then maybe wait a little longer. But it depends on your skill set. But we do look on everyone, and we try to have most people participate. Another way you can participate is you just look up Sea Shepherd in your country. Just put it on Google, Sea Shepherd in the country you're at. Like for people here in Brazil, for example, Sea Shepherd Brazil, and you get to our website, and you can volunteer on land here, helping us do some of our campaigns here, cleaning beaches and doing education for school children in schools and things like that. So there's two ways that you can participate. But yes, some of our ships are still in the water even now, and they will come back, all of them, pretty soon.
And Mitch, is there a way that people can volunteer to help with Amazon Frontlines?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first off, Derrick, thank you for your comments about our Instagram and about the storytelling that we're doing. We really appreciate it. And yeah, would love to get you down here into the Amazon whenever the pandemic passes here and it's safe to travel.
Incredible.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the stories that we're sharing and the work that we're doing, we're trying to lift up Indigenous voices and Indigenous stories through our feeds. Hey, one second. Sorry, my little girl is trying to get my attention here. Give me a second. I'm doing a chat right now. Okay. Okay. And in terms of volunteering, yeah. So we haven't developed a volunteer program per se. All of our work is on the front lines in very high risk areas across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. And we do work, we work across sort of a wide range of areas in terms of, storytelling and multimedia, clean water installations, solar energy, legal work, environmental monitoring. And so we are really excited about the idea of opening up volunteer opportunities for folks that can bring, you know, a level of expertise and just hit the ground running on those areas. You know, right now, I think that the easiest in terms of volunteering would be around photography, video editing, social media, things like that. But info@amazonfrontlines.org is the way for folks to reach out and, you know, inquire and share your skill set and experience.
And also donating is a big part as well. I mean,
donating is a great way to volunteer.
Everybody can donate now. We have both of your codes up there where people can donate, and yeah, I mean that's something that goes further than what people can actually imagine. You know, it was great to see where those donations go, being on the Sea Shepherd boats and seeing for like food, which is a completely plant-based diet on the boats, which was wonderful to see. And yeah, and just, you know, paying for all those supplies and things like that. So it's really great to see people donate to these causes, because I feel that they're extremely important. So I had a few more questions for you guys. So is there anything, Carolina, that you wanted to talk about that's happening in Brazil with Sea Shepherd that you wanted to draw light to?
Yeah, in Brazil, we are doing 4 campaigns right now, and one of the main ones is related to monitoring corals in the Northeast, both because of climate change. You know, climate change is making corals bleach all over the world, and in the Northeast of Brazil is very serious, and also because of the oil spill that we had last year, so we're monitoring that disaster. We also do a lot of beach cleanups and education with children, but that is all a bit stopped because of COVID. So, but everything you can find out on our site, seashepherd.org.br, and in any country that you are in, you can find Sea Shepherd in your country if you're there. But if you go to seashepherd.org, you can find all the info there, and also the countries at the bottom of the site, so you can find out all that info there.
So it's really, that was another question, but how important is it to educate our youth about this situations that are happening in the world? I mean, I know a lot of people feel that this next generation are going to have a lot of problems, but how important is it? I mean, for you guys to educate the youth?
Yeah, it's a massive thing to educate the youth, because as you know, the youth will also pass it to you know, older generations, what they're learning. We're really trying to work with children here in a way that they can become like little agents for change in their communities, so they can promote change in their communities. And I think that's very important. I think we are in a point right now that we're like, not only we have to take care for the planet for the future generations, we are already at the point that is like, let's take care of the planet for us, people, because we are at jeopardy here, like for real, you know, like everything that is happening in the planet shows us that really our generation is already in massive trouble. So it's very important to educate and to interact with the young generations in a way that they can also make an impact today to their parents, their grandparents, and everything like that.
Great. And Mitch, are there any programs that are educating the youth about the problems that are happening with indigenous people and the Amazon?
Yeah, no. I mean, first off, really important what Carolina said. And at Amazon Frontlines, our principal focus is working to accompany and support indigenous communities that are on the front lines of extractivism here in the Upper Amazon, and we do a tremendous amount of work with all of the indigenous youth. The indigenous youth really are the dreamers of the indigenous society and have really helped dismantle a lot of boundaries and prejudices between indigenous nations here, have really built union between the nations, are really innovating in many ways around technology, around storytelling. We've been supporting all of that, and really ensuring too that that there's a strong connection between the generations, you know, of elders who know so much about the forest. I mean, they have the ecological expertise that they have of the land, the rhythms of nature, connections to the forest, and the solutions that the forest and nature have for us. It's so important that that gets passed down through the generations. A lot of the ways that we're trying to educate youth worldwide is by lifting up indigenous stories, and, you know, training indigenous youth on filmmaking and multimedia in order to create those types of connections. And, you know, I think that, you know, one of the things that we believe in strongly too is listening and learning for the youth. I mean, I guess I'm not considered a youth anymore, even though I think so, you know, but
we all aren't.
yeah, we're not. The youth are like, they're like 16, 18, 20 now, but learning from the youth, you know, I've been so inspired to see how activated, how fired up, how outraged the youth are around the world, and how they're teaching other generations, elder generations, you know, what needs to be done and with what type of, you know, action and commitment. So I'm excited about that as well.
I think it's great that a lot of the images for this video that we're going to show a little bit later was shot by indigenous people, you know, so you really get to see their point of view, which is beautiful. You know, it's really, you know, magnificent. And I think it's great for people to get to see from their point of perspective, you know, the beauty that exists and the problems that exist as well. Hello, Bruno.
Yeah, we have like 2 minutes to go because we have another Q&A in the sequence, talking to the Brazilian journalist André Trigueiro in this address that's over here, sepultura.com.br/SepulQuarta, and you're going to have the QR codes for Sea Shepherd and Amazon Frontlines on the next videos also. So we have to finish right now.
We're going to have to wrap it up, unfortunately, but I really want to thank you both for being here and the work that you do. You know, it's really commendable, and the more people know about the work that you're doing, more change can come about from it.
It's great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sepultura, for having us. Thank you, Derrick. This has been a great opportunity to speak about our work, and it's been great to meet Mitch too and learn about his work, which is also amazing.
Thank you very much, Derrick. Really appreciate it. Wonderful to meet you, Carolina. And yeah, really excited to share this music video with the world and inspire folks with this spiritual rage that comes through in it. So thank you.
I mean, do you guys feel there's a positive outlook for everything that's happening now? You know, do you believe there's this positivity? I mean, and each of you can talk a little bit before we close out.
I think I was happy to learn this word, radical compassion. I'm gonna take this home. That was a beautiful
Radical
word, and I like learning this expression, and I'm gonna take that as a positive. But I think people need to really worry, and we should be worried. And we are not at the point now to be talking about future generations. We have to worry about our own lives and how we're gonna be in the planet 5 years from now. So it's time to really apply that radical compassion and to really care about the planet and all its species and peoples as well.
Absolutely. Great.
And I feel positive. I feel positive because we have these little ones running around, and they're full of so much life, and we need to protect our planet so that they can continue to thrive. And I'm inspired every day by indigenous cultures and indigenous wisdom and the connection that they have to the land, and think that think that, you know, with their leadership as well, we can make radical change and be radically compassionate, as Carolina said. So thank you.
Absolutely. So the time is now, not in the future. It's like really now to make those changes happen.
That's right.
We can all do that. Thank you guys again for everything. Really.
Thank you. Can't wait to see the
Very
video.
much.
Yes.
Yeah.
The video coming soon. Yes.
Awesome.
All right.